Well, good evening and welcome, race fans, to Mount Fuji and the Fuji International Circuit for this, a very special season, post-season finale playoff edition of Super Virtual Racing. My name is Webbo, here to describe the action for you. Joined tonight with special guest Aya, who joins us from his Canadian home. Welcome, Aya, to the comms box.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm trying to give some insight today on the race, a little bit of what everyone's up to, so hope to make it interesting.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to have you here. We do have a reduced field, as you can imagine, because we are doing a playoff session here today. So we will have the bottom four from the top tier of racing who are used to driving these Super Formula Honda or Toyota machines. And then we have, I think, the top three or possibly the top four from the second division, and they will be competing for a place in the prestigious top tier next year, next season, which could well end up being next year. But it's going to be a bit of a baptism of fire here tonight, Aya, to get straight from the Red Bull X1 Junior car into this much more powerful machine.
Yeah, it's definitely a different car, so everyone coming in from the second division need to get adjusted to the car. It's not as easy to drive on the limit. These cars are like driving on the edge all the time, so if you want to get a fast time, you got to be as close as you can to the edge. So a little bit more managing to do, more fuel management to do as well. Let's see what they do with the tires. Strategy is going to be interesting this time around. Two-stop is viable, but I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be trying to go with that one-stop. Let's see what happens.
So potentially a one-stop, we think, at least here. It's a difficult circuit to get used to. I know that these Super Formula cars race here very frequently, naturally, but we have not been here before in a regular season race. It's a track of real contradictions, I find. It's not only is it, of course, one of the longest straights, and there's some tremendously fast corners, but there's some really horrid corners at the end of the lap.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of long-handers that you're going to see, a lot of long corners at high speed. Sector 3 is going to be very interesting. It's a lot of swooping corners. So anyone coming in with those cold mediums, got to be a little bit more careful. So again, on the strategy side, it's going to be interesting to see who wants to start with those mediums, try to tackle those corners with the cold tires that are a little bit more slippery, or who wants to start on those softs and get those fast laps right out of the way at the beginning of the race. I can't wait to see what Ballo and Nasty are going to go for. That's one battle to watch for, what we saw all season in Division 2. I think Sol's going to be one to watch. He's been practicing a lot. He got some pace in him. He really wants to stay in Division 1, and I really hope for him that he does. And finally, Scavy and Senior Dude, who were teammates last season in Division 2 for most of the season, and they had similar pace. So I think both of them are going to be fighting it out for the last spots remaining, and both of them have been training with Vader, so expect some good times there too.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we're about to head into a 10-minute qualifying session. I haven't asked you yet, Aya, about your feelings about your season just gone. Are you overall fairly happy about it, or are you feeling like it was maybe one that got away in the end?
It was a beautiful season. We were aiming at the beginning of the season for the championship for the constructors, which we clinched off quite early on, which I'm very happy about. And it was a toss-up between me and Tequila. Anyone who took it home was deserved a champion, and at the end, he showed his mastership of the car. He did a very good season all the way through. Even though I had a push at the end of the season, I think he was dominant the whole way through. So I'm very happy for him, and we'll be sure to celebrate with some Prosecco together, that's for sure.
Fantastic. Well, it's very sporting of you. I know it looked from an outsider's perspective as if you were going to take it. You had a tremendous mid-season in the car, and obviously we were a major contributor to the gold effects on the team car, which I notice are promotee hopefuls are rocking tonight. They've obviously picked up the celebratory livery tonight with the gold accents instead of the sort of yellowy green. But that's going to be interesting for them to take on this seat. And of course, if they do get promoted, then they may end up being scouted by one of the lower order teams to take up an empty seat. Because I can't imagine Azul Racing are looking to swap any drivers around at the end of this season.
we'll see what comes next season. I think Nasty is a very talented driver, and he is driving the gold livery today, and it's due to the fact that he did clinch that second division. So he is one of the top drivers. Maybe he dethrones me or Tequila. We'll see how it goes.
Well, we're riding on stream with Bolide Fay, and from his perspective, as he's going to have a clear track taking on these first flying qualifying lap, perhaps you could talk us through as he's just exiting Daiichi Corner, turn 1.
Of course, going into the second corner, here's where the real men take this corner. You got to take it flat if you want to get that top pace, which he backed off a little bit. The next corners are a little bit tricky. You want to be as flat as you can, get as much pace as you can. Again, he's lifting, so this might not be his fastest lap. I think he's just trying out the limits on the track right now. You should be expecting at the end of the qualifying times of around low 22s. Maybe some of the faster guys might get into the 21s, but a 22 is good enough for that first line. Let's see if everyone's got their tires to the right temperature, and no, definitely not his fastest lap.
Yeah, we're feeling a lot of understeer in the car here. I imagine that's down to the fact that the track is going to ramp up throughout the qualifying session within the next 7 minutes or thereabouts, but he's clearly not quite dialed up yet, it seems, as he fires out of the final corner, the Panasonic corner, and will hit VMAX, of course, very soon, using as much of the overtake boost as possible on this flying lap. He will be the first flying lap, and it's a 122.7. Certainly not sluggish, but a time to build on, as Soulshot goes second, Liquid Gecko into third place. It looks like the track might be slower than we perhaps first imagined it to be, Aya. Scavvy about to cross the line as well. Scavvy goes fourth.
In these cars, the wind is also very interesting, so there's a lot of downforce that's taking effect on these cars. So the direction of the wind between one race to the next can make a huge difference.
Here is Nasty getting a feel for his Super Formula coming out of the Panasonic corner. Will Nasty be able to take it to Bolide? And can they perhaps put their season-long rivalry to one side, I wonder, in favour of to actually make sure that they each qualify? That's going to be a fascinating story throughout the race. Nasty goes third, a quarter of a second away from the top time so far set by Bolide Fay. And obviously people who are used to watching the second division won't be surprised to see Bolide going quickly early on, but this quickly and this much quicker than the current top tier drivers, I wonder. That's a bit of a question mark here. We've got Yenk, who I think has gone 7th. I'm not sure that lap time qualified actually for a fast lap. A 22.9 is Yenk. Bolide, though, with the fastest lap, and he's already coming out of the pits again. Oh yeah, and happy Sunday back to AJ, who joins us in the live chat as usual. So does Andrew. Andrew's asking, is this Aya? It is absolutely Aya, and I've got the feeling that I'm speaking with Jacques Villeneuve instead, actually, in my ear. So it's quite a treat here to have Aya, in case you were wondering.
Glad to be part of the stream today.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So this is just Bolide just getting a little bit squirrely out there, trying to just explore and get those tyres up to temperature. Talk us through the preparations that it takes, Aya, for a fast lap, just in general in these cars.
Again, a distinction between the first division and second division is the use of the boost. So a lot of practice goes into just driving normal laps in the practice mode, but you gotta practice with that boost, because the braking points are being modified at every corner. You want to use different lines just to optimize that top speed that you're going to be getting. So expect different lines during the race that you're going to get in the qualifying, but they're driving on the limit. Right now, everyone's pushing as hard as they can. This is what they've all been practicing for the past 2 weeks. It all comes down to these 10 minutes, and
yeah,
I'm hoping for the best for my guys in Azul. So no pressure on Nasty.
Absolutely. Well, Bolide is back out there to take on. So essentially, the message I'm hearing is maximum attack is the best preparation for a hot lap around the track. Again, Bolide really struggling with understeer through Daiichi corner turn 1 and into turn 2 as we head then uphill. And as Arya said, this one is what separates the kids from the adults around here. I don't want to be too sexist about it, but it's a full throttle corner as we head in the shadow of Mount Fuji. I also noticed Mega have gone for a very interesting new special livery on the car as well, with the Italian tricolore, but a bit more in the way of red flashes and some new exposure for Webbo stickers on the car as well, which I'm never sad to see, I have to say. So down into Dunlop and trying to navigate that really slow turn 10, 11, 12 chicane. I think we may see a little bit of action in there, and then it's a very short little stab on the throttle to get up into turn 13. These corners really help with a late apex. Bolliday seems to be taking a very classic racing line through these and is struggling then to get the power down. Looks like he could use a little bit of additional speed on the way into the corners and slowing towards the second, third or so of the corner. But anyway, I'm never going to tell a driver how to drive a car because I know what I'm skilled at. As he powers out of the final corner to start his next flying lap, are you?
Yep. Sector 3 is an interesting one. You're going to see many different lines taken by every driver. The important thing is you want to get a good exit, so on the main straight you have the top speed that you can get. There's a lot of dirtiness on the track, so going off the line is there's a pro and there's a con to it. So if you can keep the car under check, you can get a good exit, a good line. But if you're pushing too hard on the dirty side of the track, you might also spin out. So a little bit of a difficult one in Sector 3. There's an ebb and flow to it. If you can get it, it feels amazing. If you miss it, terrible time.
Looks like Yank has set a good time. So is Liquid Gecko on their personal bests at the moment, but Bolliday has a purple Sector 2. He is 0.003 of a second only up on his previous best time. He currently is the top of the pile at 122.740, and I'm not going to underplay the extent of the challenge here for our Division 2 drivers to get into this car. They've only had pretty much 1 week of 2 weeks, I should say, of training time available to them, and they may have been taking a little bit of off-season break as well in between. Those that have been up at the sharp end might have committed a little bit of in-season practice time to getting used to this car. That's a new best time, but only 1/100th of a second faster than he's been before. Nasty is on track, and he is now second with a 1 minute 22.829. We've got the top two in the second division. Currently top two here at the head of the field. What do you make of the challenge here for Nasty? Going to be right on it with Bolliday Faye. Can they put their season-long rivalry aside, do you think, Aya, for their common good of qualifying?
I think it's going to be a little bit more of the same as we saw during the whole season. They're going to be fighting it out. No niceties between these two, no love lost. But definitely at the end of the day, it's top four makes it to the first division, so don't fight too hard. Just try to keep it on track, try to finish the race, and the whole point of today is to finish in the top half of the grid. So don't push too hard is with the message that we send to each other. I think when we were speaking to Nasty, just try to finish the race, and that's the important thing.
Yes, indeed, and it looks like Nasty might be picking up a distant tow here from the car in front on the track, which I'm not entirely sure who that is. Let's join Soulshock, who is a popular driver among our SVR community. He's also wearing the maple leaf on his helmet as well, which I'm sure is going to endear him to the Canadian audience even further. Soulshock has gone for a very interesting livery. Have you seen it side on yet, Aya? This one is very, very interesting. It's well, you're not going to miss him coming, are you, tonight? He's certainly going to be looming large in the mirrors as he's about to cross the line to take the checkered flag in qualifying. Third place is the best he can do, and it looks like drivers hit their maximum speeds very early on in the session. He sets a 1 minute 22.798 as his fastest. Only good enough for third place. It's Bolliday Faye who will take us on pole position. We have 7 runners for you. Of course, we don't want to get any reserve drivers in the way of what is a crucial qualifying session and playoff race here for our season 2.
We are missing Jose today, who couldn't participate, so we're going to be just 7 on the grid, but it's going to be an interesting race.
Absolutely. Well, let's confirm for you the qualifying result. Leigh took pole position at 122.730 in his Mega Racing team car, with Nasty for Team Azul in second place. Aya's divisional teammate Nasty and his kind of slightly partial cheering on here in the commentary box. Soulshock is third, with compatriot Senor Dude in fourth position. We have Yank the Tank qualifying fifth, with Liquid Gecko and Savvy in sixth and seventh. They will start towards the back. Perhaps it would be good, Arya, if from your perspective when you're watching, you could maybe watch from the back, because I tend to start watching from the front, and then you can pick up any incidents and accidents that might happen in the first third of the race. I have seen a number of races in Fuji where misjudgments into Daiichi Turn 1 are very, very close and common. The required racing tyres today have been a slight switch to medium and soft tyre. And as Arya was saying earlier on, we are expecting a one-stop, but a two-stop is quite possibly on the cards. A crosswind along the main straightaway. We've got a 2 meters per second crosswind, which won't affect the drivers too strongly, I don't imagine. Perhaps braking into the hairpin of turn 6 halfway around the lap will be a little bit difficult, and they'll get a bit of a push halfway around the Panasonic final corner as well. Gerso Sando says, let's go Nasty in the chat, and welcome Gerso. Welcome to everybody. Do say hello if you're with us, and tell us who you think will be the top 4 and the qualifiers for Season 2 Top Tier. Of course, no shame in being in the second division. It means a different car to get used to. We haven't actually announced any details of the expected time for the next season just yet, but we will obviously be able to announce that in due course as soon as everything is organised and we're ready to go. But I'm sure, the drivers will be keen for a little bit of off-season fun. Well, apologies, folks. I seem to have lost Arya for a moment. Hopefully, we will get him back fairly soon. That's no worries.
My mute button's a little slippery. I was just letting everyone know that although we do have the league races, the first and second divisions, we do have other leagues that we're inaugurating soon. So we have a GT3 race that everyone can join us in. We have some second division spots. So if anyone wants to join the fun, do join our Discord.
Okay, we are ready to get underway then at Fuji for a 33-lap race around the international configuration. Qualification for the top tier next season is on the cards here for the top 4 in the group. It's lights out. It is drop the clutch and go, go, go. Soulshock away fairly well, but it looks like it's the likely drivers, both Nasty and Leigh at the front. Nasty hogging that inside apex through into Daiichi corner, and it looks like the drivers just being fairly tentative, fairly steady on the way through, and Leigh with the slightly wider, slightly more akin to the racing line through the corner, and he managed to hold on to P1, but running a little bit wide through turn 2 and 3. It looks like these two are already disappearing off into the distance. Aya.
Very good line at the beginning. Good start from some of the drivers. I can see Scavvy gain a position straight from the start. That dirty air in that turn 2 is very dangerous. So following another driver into turn 2 might get you off track, and a penalty is harsh. On the straights, the penalty is very, very harsh here.
We haven't talked about the effect of the draft or the slipstream as well, which is going to be very interesting. Certainly in the first few laps here, I can see Yank the Tank eyeing up an opportunity here, but he's currently stuck between two Darkside Racing teammates, Senor Dude and Scavvy here, and the Stormtroopers to Lord Vader's Imperial excellence, as these two will be trying to find their way into the top tier as well. I wonder quite how that will work out, but at the moment Soulshock in his new livery has got the warning stickers all over the car. He needs to be very alert to the fact that Senor Dude is picking up the tow down the main straightaway, and Leigh has gone off so well into the lead of this race. He has a very healthy lead, and that's an overtake from Soulshock into Daiichi corner. Nicely done there, Arya.
That was beautiful. The battle started now. You got your top 4 already, and we're going to see if they can keep that position or they can keep that formation. Everyone else in the back is going to be pushing the whole race through. Don't forget, it's 33 laps. Anything could happen. Strategy comes into play a little bit later on. The tires, the fuel, anything could happen in this 33 laps. So everything is not done yet.
Absolutely. And just to remind anybody who's new to the stream, this is a PSVR2 exclusive league. So all drivers are using the PSVR2 helmet, and that does have a big effect on the consistency and the sense of speed for the drivers. It is so much more of everything pretty much in the VR. This is Soulshock trying to come back here at Senor Dude. Senor Dude just parking him off onto the dirty side of the track like an absolute pro at the moment here. Soulshock just making sure, just shepherding him out to the outside each and every time. But now Soulshock is going to get that opportunity down the main straightaway, and we'll see the effect of the toe. He's going to get it even earlier, I think, than Senor Dude did. Peels to the outside, doesn't want to use too much boost here, and in fact he's going to be all the way across and in front of Senor Dude before they hit the braking zone. Senor Dude may even get a little bite of draft on the way down into the corner, but Soulshock, using the middle line into the Daiichi corner, manages to retake the place that he just lost on the previous lap.
Let's see if Senor Dude can stay behind him in this corner. This is where the dirty air takes effect. Oh, you see? Lost a little bit of time. It's very hard to follow into turn 2. The effects of the downforce take a hit when you're driving behind someone. So in the long, fast corners, that's where you want to be very careful following someone. And that's exactly what happened to Senor Dude, giving a little bit of time to Yank, who's now catching up, fighting for that last spot.
Absolutely. Jug on Sim says, good move for Soulshock. It was indeed, but he gave the place up on the previous lap. Now Senor Dude has been significantly compromised. How about Yank the Tank just storming through the chicane of Dunlop, and he's fully alongside at one moment there into the corner, but Senor Dude once again using the middle lane of the road to try and dissuade a move. Yank the Tank going for a bit of a bomb down into the final corner, the Panasonic corner. Is that an unwise position to make a move? We will see as they now power down the main straightaway once again on board with Senor Dude, who wouldn't have minded giving up the position there because he knew what was going to come his way, which was that great slipstream down into the next long straight, and Yank is going to have to do it all over again.
What a toe. That's where strategy comes into play again. Just to notice that Scavy and Liquid at the back of the field are actually on the mediums, so they're running their own race with a different strategy. Expect them to be back in the race a little bit further on when they switch.
Senor Dude and Yank the Tank go wheel to wheel. It almost came unglued there for a moment. Yank the Tank ending up having to just back off a little bit and live to fight another day, but that got a little bit tasty, and we're only into lap 4 of 33. It's going to be absolutely gloves off, I think, later on in the race. Just a reminder then, we've got Bolide Faye leading this race from the start, from pole position as he had at the start of the race, of course. 2.7 seconds he now has ahead of season-long rival Nasty, who, just as we watch him, spins out of turn 15, Nets corner, nerfs into the barrier. I think temporary damage on that front wing, and it is now all on again for Nasty. P5, that's not enough to qualify, so he's going to have to do a real job here now. The challenge is fairly clear, but Liquid Gecko almost does exactly the same thing behind him, and it's just on throttle oversteer, on these slow corner exits.
You gotta really feather that throttle when getting out of the corners. It's very slippery, and it's very dangerous. Damage will cost you a lot of time. So now the question is, will Nasty hit, try to get a new front wing, get some different tires on, or will he stay there and try to make the best out of it?
We'll have to see. When do you think the medium tire window is going to be open? Because they have to use both the soft and the medium today.
For the one stop around lap 10 to 12, maybe some of them are going to push a little bit more to get some better mediums at the end of the race. But past lap 12, the start falling off. So I think that's when you're going to see the first 7 try to pit, get some mediums on, and finish the race there.
So it's way too early to make this a one-stop. But Nasty will be spending this lap now just getting a feel for how bad the damage is on the car, and if it is going to hurt him more than a second unscheduled pit stop potentially. He may have been planning a soft, medium, soft strategy, or at least had it in the back of his mind. We'll have to see. I think a pit stop is quite likely soon, because he is struggling at the moment to gap Liquid Gecko, who, as you mentioned earlier, is on the medium tyre himself at the moment.
Exactly, yeah.
So I wonder what we will see from Nasty. Just misjudgment coming out of Net's corner. Ended up going at right angles to the main racing line, hitting the barrier, and he has decided not to go in. Indeed, no pit stop from him coming. And actually, we've got Senior Dude catching Soulshock here, who is now shocked, I think, to be in P2.
That's a good position for him. Really, Nasty's demise is good for him, but can you hold that position? Senior Dude is coming, Yank is warming up, and expect Nasty to be back in the race later on. He's a very fast driver, and a little setback is not going to hold him back. So,
Senior Dude has been putting in some very consistent laps here, and he's building the speed. He's just put in a 25.2, and he's getting quicker and quicker at this stage, but we anticipate fairly soon that those soft tyres will start to become worse for wear, and they will start to fade their lap times. But for now, at least, Senior Dude getting into a really good rhythm. So we're going to have to get a really good close-up of this new livery for Senior Dude here at the moment. He's warning SVR official admin bias and do not pass on the car. Warning stickers everywhere. He's got a choke logo. And
stay ahead.
And Canada A on there as well. Made in Canada on all over the car. So he's clearly nailing his colours to the mast here for sure. We've got Bolliday leading by 9.1 seconds. That has to be a surprise at this stage, are you?
He's putting in some consistent laps, really. There's been a lot of movement in the back behind him. Nasty was pretty close, but let's see where he ends up now. He's actually
Nasty,
in the pit, so he decided
Nasty
to
pits.
change that front wing.
So this looks like there will be a little bit of fuel going in. Fuel Bowser man is no, in fact, not any fuel going in. A potentially just damage repair happening. So he's gone for a very short pit stop, I think, at this stage. He's still on his starting soft tyres. Didn't even go for a new set of softs. Is that a mistake, are you?
I would have switched because, like we said, the two stop is viable here. So maybe a little switch of tires would have been the best way to go.
So interesting tactic here from Nasty. There's no safety cars. We'll have no Fort Calls Yellow to bring the cars together. I do commentate on leagues that manage to simulate a safety car, which is an interesting factor in racing. But within GT7, of course, we have them in F1, but in GT7 it is an interesting challenge for the drivers. This then is Senior Dude on board. He's 12.3 seconds away from the lead, equidistant to Soulshock in front, Yank the Tank behind. Yank's challenge seems to be fading a little bit, and I wonder if there's a bit of cause for improvement to come for Yank with the old race tyre management, and that might be what is starting to take effect here with our second tier drivers, not used to just how to manage a stint length, perhaps, are you?
You can really notice on the tire gauge that Bolide and Soulshock have better tires at the front, and Senior Dude and Yank are falling a little bit behind. The tires are getting a little bit more degradation, so maybe they're gonna have to adjust their strategies there, maybe pit on lap 10. They're definitely losing a little bit of time, so they're gonna have to manage the fuel and the tires to perfection just to finish this race behind Soulshock that's putting a real performance right now.
So put us in the cockpit, Aya. What are the drivers thinking about in order to try and conserve those tyres? It looks like it's obviously going to be the left-hand side of the car that is more loaded throughout the corner. What are they doing mid-corner or corner entry in order to try and preserve those tyres for as long as possible?
So the whole idea is to not put too much load on that, especially the front left. Either the lines that you take, you gotta maybe take a straighter line before you start turning in at high speed. Brake on a straight, turn on a straight, that's always the golden way of doing it. A little bit of brake balance as well can help you out. So moving that brake balance to the rear, some of the drivers have been tinkering with that. So really experience comes into play. So if this is a new car for you, this is a new track for you, You're going to be pushing it to the maximum and not really thinking about that management. And you can really see where some of these drivers have been putting more practice than others.
Absolutely. There's one thing getting used to a circuit, getting used to a car at top speed, getting ready for qualifying, sort of time trial experience. But then you've got to try and find a way to manage each stint length over the course of the stint. And there's no way of really replicating that apart from in the heat of battle, I anticipate.
A lot of practice. But then again, all these guys have been practicing together for the past 2 weeks, so they know each other a little bit. They know where their weak spots are. They know where they need to work a little harder. So they know their rivals today. So it's going to be very interesting fights when they catch up to each other.
Are you seeing any surprises at this stage? I mean, I know you've been practicing with the drivers. Anyone who's sort of ahead of or behind the position that you perhaps were thinking they would be?
Well, except the obvious of Nasty now at the back of the grid, still catching up to Liquid. Everyone else is fighting pretty well. Bolide, obviously, as we know from second division, fast driver, consistent driver, putting 24s back to back. He's where he's supposed to be. Soulshock, really been practicing very hard and very good times that he's putting as well. And that livery really helps him not get overtaken. So he's got all the chances on his side, and I think all the Yank fans are hoping for the best for him. And he's actually going in the pit, so this is where we start seeing the first people change those tires.
Absolutely. Lap 9 is a little bit ahead of what you were expecting earlier on, perhaps ahead of the ideal situation. But do you think that they will get the medium safely home from for the remaining 23 laps?
That front left is a little scary to me. He's been pushing really hard on those right-handers, so I think he's going to do a two-stop here. Okay, so we will see from Yank. Well, that means Nasty slots up one position. I'll just check on Nasty's current tyre wear as well, because he has not changed tyres. He has been in for repairs, and we wonder perhaps whether there was a strategic error or at least a missed opportunity for Nasty. I'm sure he knows what he's doing, but clearly he has to adjust from plan A. This has got to be plan B or plan C, because he certainly wouldn't have planned for getting a problem through turn 13, and he almost hits the barrier again coming out of the hairpin turn 6, just getting that rear axle lit up. And you see it over and over again throughout the season on these Super Formula cars. As you described in the qualifying session, it is on the edge the whole time, but you do see the traction oversteer all the time throughout the season with the even our fantastic top tier drivers. These are absolute beasts, these turbo driven Super Formula Hondas. Definitely a step up from the Red Bulls. The Red Bulls, you could just throw them into a corner. They don't want to spin. They want to stay on track. A lot of fun to drive, but the step up really going from the Red Bull Juniors into the SF23s, they're a whole different beast. So if you can manage and you can hold them on track, they feel amazing to drive. I can promise you that.
So satisfying, but alive and scary at the same time. But I guess that also builds the satisfaction no end. I see ABS switched on here for Liquid Gecko as he knocks out a bollard going through turn 3, the Coca-Cola corner. He's clearly being quite aggressive, and there you see a penalty now come up onto the car. They will be off throttle for that total 1.5 seconds, and I think that is going to certainly kill his attempts here to close in on Scavy. It is Bolide Faye in the lead of this race by a significant margin, ahead of Soulshock and Senor Dude, with Scavy in 4th. Canadian fans will be rejoicing to see Canada flying in 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and particularly, I imagine, ahead of our Americans in 5th, 6th and 7th right now.
It's the Nations Cup all over again.
Well, we will, unfortunately for everybody, we have an Italian on top, so at least they can have a shared enemy today as well. And AJ, well, that's got the Canadian Maple Leaf flags flying here from Grizzle, who joins us in the live chat. So does AJ, and he's happy with the Canadian geese. Into the pits comes Liquid Gecko. Senor Dude is also in right now, but it looks like Scavy with a slightly obviously the medium tyres to start with on Scavy, but it's Soulshock and Bolide who have outlasted the other soft starters at this early stage of the race, with the exception perhaps of Nasty here, who is still on his starting soft tyres, albeit he had a fairly gentle few seconds on those tyres going into the pits. It wouldn't have saved a great deal, certainly not as much as it cost him to be offline and hit the barrier as he did earlier on. 4th place right now, but this is qualification for the top tier. Do we think, in the live chat and here in the comms box, Aya, do we think Nasty's going to be able to do it and get up to the all-important P4?
I wouldn't put it past him. Liquid had a penalty going into the pits as well, so that's going to lose him some time to Nasty.
All right. So was that the original penalty we saw, or did he cross the white line and end up having to take an extra 3 seconds?
The original penalty, so he had to serve it right before going into the pit.
Got it. So a very slow and pedestrian entry into the pit lane for Liquid Gecko, who's out in 7th position at the moment. But what about that gap for Nasty? He is only 7.2 seconds ahead of Senor Dude's P5. Senor Dude out on new medium tyres, and then Nasty, the rearmost driver on the favoured strategy to start on the soft tyres. And this surprises me a lot, I have to say, Ira, and I'm glad I've got you here today, because it always surprises me that drivers who have to start on a full tank of fuel would choose to start on the soft tyres. Now, what is all that about in terms of strategy? What advantage is that giving them to run full tanks of fuel on soft tyres?
Really, the whole idea is to get away from your opponents, right? So if you can get a good start, you can get a good first or second lap, let everyone else fight behind you, get some clear air, and just do your own race. So I call that the Lewis Hamilton strategy. Just get ahead of everyone, do your own thing, and pray for the best. If you're fighting with mediums, with people around you, a full tank on a cold medium is never fun.
Got it. Absolutely. See, I always feel like I want to use the soft tyres when the car is at its absolute peak and its lowest possible fuel. This is Yank the Tank closing in on Senor Dude now. We have a bit of a challenge here on our hands for that P5, as 2nd, 3rd and 4th are also pretty nose to tail at this stage. Yank getting a very much tighter line through turn 13 and 14. He's trying to go outside inside here on Senor Dude, and actually passes him on the approach to the corner, but he's once bitten, twice shy as he exits out of Panasonic. But I think Senor Dude just yielded there deliberately to give up to get the toe down the main straight again. There he goes. We've seen this before from Senor Dude. He knows where to put the car, and I think again that was Yank the Tank just being invited to take the lead down that main straight. And he's challenging again. Yank the Tank absolutely dive bombing into Daiichi, but unfortunately too late on the brakes, and you can't fault him for bravery.
He overcooked that corner, but every battle that they have is good news for Nasty.
That's true.
The closer he gets, the more they fight, the closer he can get to them. So they got to be careful about that. Maybe help each other out, finish the race, and then fight on the last lap, or run the risk of having Nasty breathing down your neck, which is never fun.
So Nasty's challenge here, it's 8 seconds to Senor Dude in Yank the Tank. Nasty has pitted and come out, crucially, just ahead of Liquid Gecko. Liquid Gecko, who is obviously used to driving this car. Liquid Gecko has gone for the soft tyres, so almost certainly a two-stopper for Gecko.
It's got to be. There's no way he's finishing that race on those softs.
You see, I've said things that certain before and been proved wrong by these excellent drivers here, but you know better than I do, as Liquid Gecko has obviously decided to run lighter fuel a period on those soft tyres. A reminder, everybody has to use the softs and mediums at least once. There is a change of compound rule, as in many forms of motorsport. They don't obviously have to use the hards. That would be a horrible punishment to give out to our drivers. Bolide Fay leads by 14.2 seconds at the head of our final of the season, this playoff special, and he is definitely booking his place here in the top tier next season. I wonder how the franchise teams are going to choose between the newly promoted drivers, whether they'll be slotting into the bottom and we'll have a draft system for those teams that have lost drivers thanks to this playoff race. I think that's been yet to be decided, but if you know different, do let me know.
We're still tinkering with the format, so I think we might have to requalify everyone, get a new draft system out. But for sure, everyone's going to be fighting over Bolide, over Nasty if he makes it. very good drivers that
Right.
belong in Division 1, and I think they just arrived a little bit later, and that's the only reason they weren't there.
So Scavy out there on the exit of turn 14, just struggling on these mediums now, but he's still going to take a bit of pain. Looks like he's trying to make this a one-stop race, but those tyres and the car handling, the body language of the car on Scavy, definitely indicating to me that he's a very uncomfortable driver right now.
Again, the front left is dying on him. He's pushing too hard. Maybe he's going to have to pit earlier than scheduled, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, Nasty's catching up to Yank. That 8-second gap is now down to 7, so he's making headway.
He is, and that's probably on target to try and close this gap. Of course, Nasty would have to pass both Yank and Senor Dude. Nasty is trying to gap Liquid Gecko, but of course this long straight is really hurting anybody's attempt here to generate some distance, with the exception of Boladay Faves, who's managed to create enough dirty air off the back of his car to disappear at the front of the field. I wonder how this would have gone had Nasty been up there at the front with Boladay this whole time. Looks like Boladay has had the car absolutely dialed in, though. That Mega Racing car has been fast from the get-go, and he's obviously gone through his preparations. Liquid Gecko with a huge, huge drift moment there through the corner, and that was a very, very nice catch here. Let's just watch him in the chase cam as he comes through. It's as he turns left here into the hairpin. Power starts to be fed in, and it was just that tiny bit overpower on the way out of the slow hairpin corner. But wow. Great hold there from Liquid Gecko. Unfortunately, that means Yank is going to get further away, although Liquid Gecko is clearly pushing very hard on these soft tyres, setting up a fastest sector despite that huge twitch.
He doesn't look very comfortable, though.
No. No, indeed, he does not. Well, Liquid Gecko then, that was a personal best time the lap prior. He's about to cross the line. We'll get an update on this lap time. 25.789. AJ saying Scavy is pitting and going onto the soft tyres, indeed, and that's early. That is still a good what have we got, 16 laps to go. That's half the race. Soft tyres for Scavy going on, but he's going to have to do an awful lot of management, Aya, to get those home.
Again, I think Scavy's going to have to go with a 2-stop as well. With the way that they're pushing on those tires, the management is very low, so they're going to have to either be very, very slow for a good 16 laps, or they're going to have to slap on some new tires towards the end of the race.
Does it help the drivers to bring the tires in gently on the first lap or two, or is it a fairly linear amount of wear on the tire? Is it possible to try and protect them early on?
Well, you can. I mean, the whole race is a lot of management with these tires. Especially in this division, you have just enough fuel and just enough tires to make it through the end of the race. So anywhere that you push too hard, any bad lap is going to come bite you in the back at the end of the race.
Definitely. So it's a little bit like a round of golf. It's less about the good laps or the good hits you make, and more about the bad ones and the misses, and how often you put it in the rough for the drivers as to how they manage their tyres over the long haul. Yank is in 4th position at the moment. He's 31.4 seconds off the lead of the race, but all important is qualifying in that top 4. Doesn't matter if you are in the lead by 20 seconds or you finish 20 thousandths of a second ahead of P5. You qualify for next season. There's no argument. This is a semi-endurance distance race here. I would have liked to have seen perhaps us try and do this in maybe 2 different cars, maybe both the Red Bull X1 Junior and the SFH, or the SF23s here. But this is it's basically all on this Fuji round, and that is why it's going to be really hurting Nasty. Although he has caught Yank by a further half a second since we last checked in. Nasty's gap 6.5 seconds. As AJ says, he thinks it would be cool to see both cars, or maybe just a different car, perhaps. To be announced late in the session or something would have been quite interesting. But we can't race forever. I'm sure by the time we get through the off-season special events, as Yank is struggling to get out of Panasonic, and I think that was just a misjudgment rather than tyres at this stage.
I mean, anything is good for Nasty. I'm cheering for my boy, that's for sure. But he is using a lot of his overtake compared to Yank that's still got a good 3/3 to go. So maybe that's going to come into play at the end of the race, but he is catching, until this lap actually, about 0.5 a lap. So maybe a little battle in 10 laps. That'll be interesting to watch.
Well, let's join Nasty on board then, and you can talk us through how you feel the car is behaving for him, as he seems to be wearing the Stormtrooper. Sorry, I think this is what are we looking at here? This is the Rebellion race suit, perhaps. And I think that might be a little bit of goading for the Darkside Racing team on his helmet and at least his gloves, if not his overalls as well. But what are you feeling as we head towards the third sector here at the moment?
For Nasty?
Yeah.
I think he must be a little bit stressed in that cockpit at the moment. He had a lot of confidence that left him as soon as he got that crash. So it's all about composing himself, try to find his rhythm, put the past in the past. There's no way you can make up for lost time, so you got to focus on the next laps. And as we put on the car right in front of him behind the steering wheel, the important thing is that first you had a finish. So that's got to be his first objective. Bring the car.
He's even got that on his dash. He's actually got first you have to finish on the dash. Seems to be getting good turning at the moment. The front end kind of responding to his inputs quite nicely. Although, to my eye at least, seems to be cranking quite a lot of steering lock on.
And it seems like Nasty's getting his groove on too. So that 6.5 second gap is now at a 7.2, 7.3. So he's getting a little bit of pace, maybe using a little bit more of that overtake. I think his objective still is Senior Dude, but any fight between the two of them is good for Nasty.
Liquid Gecko in the pits for the second time, so he's now going to take a 13-lap stint on the medium tyre. He hasn't used the medium tyre yet. We'll see if he stops for any fuel. He is going to stop for a splash and get released from the pit lane, and out he comes then. Liquid Gecko 51 seconds away from the lead of the race and make that 1 minute 12 now. But he's got a lot of distance to catch here. And do you think it might be starting to sink in now for Liquid Gecko that he'd be driving a Red Bull X1 Junior car next season?
I think he had a little bit of front wing damage too going into the pit. So same for him. He's realizing that he's off pace a little bit, so pushing a little bit harder than he should. And it's getting to him. It's you got to be composed for all 33 laps. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So again, more difficulty on track for Liquid, so might be sinking in at this moment that the Red Bull Juniors it is again for next year.
Absolutely. Well, Senior Dude, P3 at the moment, seems to have got the measure of the pace of Yank the Tank at the moment. Yank the Tank now 4.1 seconds behind Senior Dude in fourth position, 5.8 seconds only ahead of Nasty. A bit of a rough lap potentially, that one for Yank. I can see him using the boost. Is that something that indicates to you that a driver might have had a slightly negative lap the one prior? They start to try and make up for lost ground using that boost up?
Try to make up for lost time when unfortunately any mistake you make now is going to catch up to you. The boost you're using now is the boost you're going to need at the end of the race.
Absolutely, and it could be absolutely critical if we do get towards the end of this race and Nasty is trying to qualify here. It would be a big shock if Nasty does not qualify after the season he has had, but of course he has made one big error in this race, and I don't think he can really blame anybody apart from himself, perhaps just getting a little bit ahead of himself coming out of these slower corners. Not treating the car with quite the level of respect that you need on that first lap. But so far, this is the way things stand for Nasty, although there is plenty of opportunity for the remaining drivers to make similar level of mistakes in the laps to follow. Here is Nasty with a little bit less fuel on board than Yank, but not a significant amount less. Scavy has a decent amount of fuel left in the car. Everyone hovering just under half a tank of fuel. Bolliday has perhaps been the most aggressive on the fuel, and of course he can afford to be, and can start to slow towards the final 10 laps now that we have on our hands. Soulshock likewise. Senior Dude's management has been pretty impressive. He has perhaps the most fuel on board at the moment of anybody and is in that P3, and his pace has been very nice so far. Lots of 1 minute 25s on his lap counter. Bolide Fay holds the fastest lap at the moment. Not that it means a lot because it depends how much boost you use, but Bolide has a 1:23.713 on the car.
Very consistent times too. 24s across the board.
Whoa. Yes, indeed. That's pretty good. Apart from the last one, which was a 25.3, a terrible lap from by his standard.
I had to jinx it, obviously.
Yeah. But there he is. A great run of 1 minute 24s here from Bolide, and he's still pushing hard. And I think he only knows one speed, our Italian racer, Bolide Fate. Soulshock is rocking that new number 13 livery here. Just trying to make sure nobody runs into him or can claim they didn't see him in their mirrors. And he's taking that car into second position at the moment. 23 seconds, Bolide's lead over Soulshock. Soulshock has 9.4. And I think we may have another pit stop, have we? We've got a car heading in the pits.
Bolide can definitely bring it back home for some stops, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He can now swap and take an extra pit stop. His tyre wear is looking good though on the mediums. Scavy pitting from 6th place, I should say. I think that will mean Liquid Gecko will make the pass on the way through. Let's check out whether he manages it. I think he does. No, not quite. Liquid Gecko still chasing, and Scavy 3.3 seconds. So a new set of medium tyres, and he can go really aggressive now, Scavy, in these final 10 laps.
Meanwhile, Nasty's got the gap down to 3 seconds now. Is slow laps from Yank or great laps from Nasty? Maybe a combination of the two?
A 24.8 previous lap for Nasty. 25.7, 25.9 for Yank, who's very much in race management mode. Nasty, though, can very easily see that white Buckstein Transport Service car in front of him, and will be trying to reel him in. I don't think 3 seconds is enough to be able to pick up the toe, but he'll start to be imagining what it's going to feel like shortly as he uses a little bit of overtake boost at the end of the straightaway, which is a bit of a surprise for me. But he obviously just wants that little bit of extra propulsion. How much of a boost does it actually feel like in the car, do you think, Aya, when you're using that boost?
Well, it depends where you're using it. If you're trying to get that top speed like you did at the end of the straight, it can get you maybe like an extra 3 or 4 kph, kilometers per hour at the end.
Yep.
But the ideal spot to use at the beginning of the straight, third gear on a straight line, try to get that extra launch off the straight. So whatever he's doing, it's working. He's down to 2 seconds, going for the best second sector as well. So Nasty's on fire right now.
Yeah, it's looking good for Nasty, for sure, and he's starting to pressurise Yank the Tank. Just a reminder, this is for qualification. This is the final qualification spot for our Season 2 top tier racing group. And no shame in racing in Tier 2 by any stretch with these excellent VR drivers. But, of course, that is what this is all about for the drivers. Nasty will have been feeling like he ought to have been in that top tier, I think, as probably did Bolide Fay from the moment they joined the server, but they were too late to start in our inaugural Season 1. Now that gap down to 1.8 second, and it would not surprise me if Nasty is starting to feel an extra few Ks as he goes down the main straight. It looks like Yank the Tank just very lackadaisical going through Daiichi Corner, and as they head back uphill towards turn 3, that's another personal best mini sector there for Nasty. But that boost is enough to spin the car, right? I mean, if you're not properly gripped in and you're low on grip on the rear, if you press that boost button, it will make you spin.
For sure, especially if you're in the middle of a turn or middle of your car's not stable yet, and you press that boost, it's going to send you into the grass faster than you think.
Another fastest middle
right
sector.
In the second sector.
Absolutely, yeah, he's looking great actually, and actually the wind has built quite considerably. It's still in the same direction, but that little tailwind going into this corner now. Nets corner, turn 15, and halfway round Panasonic is certainly going to be a lot harder. You see the drivers heading over, Nasty just heading over quite a lot of at least visual marbles on the circuit. How much attention do they need to pay that kind of effect, or is it just there for visual effect?
Oh no, you definitely feel it. So the track is a little bit more slippery where the marbles are at, but in this case, that's the faster line. That's where you get the better exit. You just got to be careful putting your foot on the accelerator, but you want to get every single inch of the track to give you the faster exit that you can. So it's a risk, but it looks like it's paying off.
Well, this is Nasty then, really breathing down the neck of Jann the Tank, who I think is getting hot under the collar. He's certainly struggling to get the car neat and tidily into Daiichi corner, the turn 1. They head down towards the hairpin now, and Nasty is super, super close. I'm pretty shocked at the rate that Nasty has managed to catch Jann in the last 3 or 4 laps here. Jann not happy on the medium tyres, as he's actually feeling the need to go quite narrow and defensive into this third sector, and is going to get a swap round going. Now, Nasty did make contact with Jann. I felt that Jann might have perhaps already been on the way out there. We'll just replay this one from Jann's perspective. Turns into turn 10 and 11. We'll see what happens here, but that was a touch from behind from Nasty, and that will be a question mark for the stewards later on. That was a big moment there for our Jann the Tank in the Buckstein Transport Service car. He's lost 7.5 seconds to Nasty as a result. Arya, what's your take on that?
It seemed to me, from my perspective, looking at it through Nasty's eyes, that maybe Jann was already losing the car before the contact was done, but I'm sure the stewards are going to take a look at that. And I mean, at this point, any form of penalty is not gonna do anything for Jann. He's going to have to get close. So if a 10-second penalty applies, at least get the benefit of it. Race is not over for him yet, so a couple more laps to go. He's got to push, and hopefully gets a result that's in his favor. It's
a bit of mind management, though. How do you deal with that as a driver if you feel like you've just been on the receiving end of contact like that, and you're feeling aggrieved, whether it's right or wrong? That's the feeling in the cockpit, at least for the first few seconds. So what has Jann got to do here mentally, while he's also focusing on every apex?
He's definitely got to put it behind him. I mean, every lap is a new race, so he's got to put it behind him, just focus on the next laps that he's got to do. It's a mental sport as much as a physical sport, so concentration is everything right now.
Absolutely. He's Nasty is into 4th position, and the mission for Nasty is clear, I'm sure here. Get as far up the road as humanly possible. He can't now rest on the laurels of having got into 4th position. I think he has got to really make sure that he doubles down on this and is at least 10 seconds clear. I think has got to be his approach now, right or wrong, and they can deal with things afterwards in the driver chat room and the stewards' inquiries. But he's in 4th position. He has a 10-second gap, and that's all he can do now. Whether he's made a mistake or he feels like he's completely vindicated, it's still quite clear that you've got to do the work. Regardless, we've got Bolide leading this race by 28.3 seconds, and I think Bolide is actually going to be closing in on the rearmost driver Liquid Gecko to put a lap on him in equal machinery before the end. Now, just to remind you, Bolide, this is his first competitive race with us in this car. He's been driving the lower powered, high downforce and high grip Red Bull X1 Junior car all season so far. This is monumentally impressive from Bolide Arya.
He's actually already overtaken Liquid, and he's catching up to Scan. So wow. He is on a whole different level today. He's pushing hard, he's focused, and I think his mind is already in the first division.
Absolutely. Mario saying in the chat here that Jann has to increase the cooling on his VR headset at this point. But that's a good thought, good idea. But I don't think Jann could be making any adjustments to his home rig setup at this stage of the race. Solshock is in 2nd position, and many neutrals, and of course all the Canadians in the audience will be cheering on Solshock, who puts in a lot of work, as does QT in the running of our league. So Solshock will be, as you described earlier, are you pretty desperate to maintain his status as a top-tier driver?
He's doing pretty good. I don't know if it's the livery or all the practice he's put in, but he's doing pretty good.
Absolutely,
It's all
got to help
a little bit, but I don't think the last 5 laps are going to be enough for him to catch up to Solskjaer.
Andrew is now spamming Canadian words in the live chat here, talking about poutine, beaver. Senor Dude,
Don't reveal our
P3.
secrets.
Well, Sandra did a little bit of that this season, told us all about your race day meal prep and everything. we have Nasty in P4. Has Sandra tried out the Super Formula yet, Aya?
She has. She's put a couple laps in it. I think the sheer speed of it in VR is a whole different level. It's definitely a step up from what she's used to, but everyone that's been stepping up to the SF23s feels that raw aura of power in that car. It's a joy to drive, but boy is it difficult to keep on the limit.
So Nasty in 4th place, clear by 14 seconds now, 3 seconds away from Senor Dude. Biggerwood is ready, is enjoying that race day meal prep. Now, are we going to get Sandra her own gamer tag as well, are you? That's the important thing.
It's already in the works. You might see SS Stormborn next season. So we're trying to get her set up with her own rig, her own setup. So expect great things.
Her own setup as well. Wow, that would be quite something. If you've got the network to run 2 side-by-side rigs, that would be quite impressive between the two of you. Senor Dude has now got Nasty just 2 seconds behind him in his mirrors. Nasty, after a early error and damaging the car, making an unscheduled repairing pit stop. He didn't change tyres. We were questioning that at the time. He's chewing through those medium tyres at a slightly reduced rate compared with Senior Dude. And now Nasty is closing in. And we've seen this before, as I think the Jaws music is starting to play in Senor Dude's headset.
My only worry here, Webbo, is the fuel levels. I'm looking at some of the drivers with a whole variation of fuel levels. I'm hoping Bolide has took that into consideration, and he's not going to have to. Well, with 31-second gap, you can hit and take some more and pina colada on the side and finish the race. I'm just
riding on board here with Nasty in the cockpit view, and his tyres are not looking very nice. Those front tyres are certainly looking very textured at this stage. I think he's going to be okay, but the main concern for you, Ari, is fuel at the moment. Everybody under a quarter of a tank, a little bit of management having to take effect. No boost left on Nasty's car either. It's going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. But that second sector, he has absolutely been the king of that second sector today.
Oh yeah, that exit after the long right-hander is a difficult one, but it gets you. If you get a good exit, you got a nice line heading up to sector 3.
So Nasty just starting to get a little bit distracted by Senor Dude in front. We'll be starting to feel the car as well. Now, obviously, when you have a sort of slow approach to a car that's leading you, you can start to get used to that nasty, that dirty air effect. And almost said nasty air, but the dirty air effect going through especially the fast corners, are you? But at what point does it just, is it more like a cliff? Do you just suddenly get a snap, or do you start to feel it coming on in increments, that effect of the
It really depends on the speed of the corner, right? So leading up to now, this corner 2, this is where you feel it at the most. So the closer you are, the more your car feels slippery, like if your tires are giving out on you. So you got to be very gentle, you got to be very careful, as he just was. So
yeah, Nasty
is really on a run right now.
So quick in this sector. His car is absolutely dialed up. Fantastic. The way he went through turn 3 Coca-Cola was absolutely astonishing compared to other drivers we've ridden on board with. This is Senor Dude holding the inside line, trying to keep on here, and Nasty's got form on these corners. He's being a little bit more circumspect, trying to sweep around the outside, didn't quite make it, and then a big snap as he approaches turn 13, and it's certainly a challenge here. I think he'd do well just to be patient at this point, Aya.
Oh, my heart is beating fast for him right now. Just watching this, I'm as stressed as he would be in the car.
Absolutely. Here we go. Is this how you feel when you're watching Sandra's races as well?
I am as sweaty as I can be when I'm watching her races. She's been very good this season. I know this is not her race, but she's had a very good season, very consistent laps. As we're going into the final lap, I think this is where it all comes down. Can Nasty overtake Senior?
Here we go. Well, I mean, Nasty was a lot slower through that final sector than I was expecting. I think the challenge is on here, but where is Bolide Faye? He is about to finish up this race. It is absolutely zoomed by on us, this race, as Nasty comes through the final couple of corners. He's already put a lap on one of the Dark Side Racing drivers here as well. So I think that's going to be Bolide Faye absolutely nailing on his slot in the top tier division for next season. Bolide Faye wins in Fuji. Tremendous performance from him. It was Scavi who picked up P6. He was celebrating there, but perhaps you might ask whether he ought to. We've got Nasty and Senor Dude coming into blows again. Let's just check that out as we head back to the action, back to replay. This is down into the slow stuff. This is where Nasty has been incredibly quick. Senor Dude getting onto the brakes into the Dunlop chicane, and I think was a little wide. Cuts off the route there for Nasty, who's super impatient to get by. It's going to be a drag to the line for qualification in our next season. It's going to be so tight. Senor Dude is third, Nasty is in fourth position, and Senor Dude claims the podium with Soul Shock as well. Nasty in fourth place, and he's going to finish 16 seconds ahead of the hard-charging, hard-working, and ultimately probably fairly aggrieved Yank the Tank, who crosses the line last of all, but in fifth place in our race. What a race we had for us there, Yank.
Amazing
Do you
race.
feel like Bolide, Soul Shock, Senor Dude, and Nasty will be appropriate people to take part in next season's top tier?
They definitely did their speaking on track, so they deserve their spot. They're going to be good contenders to see in First Division next season, and looking forward to racing with them.
A perfect day's racing for Bolide, who is absolutely bossing this playoff finale. Bolide wins with the fastest lap, pole position, clean race, everything just absolutely swept it all. But Soul Shock and Senor Dude also on the podium, and we'd be pretty happy with that. Nasty in fourth position, and Yank the Tank, Scavi and Liquid Gecko failing to qualify, but I'm sure we'll be back and racing in season 2. We have had some great interactions in the live chat. We had lots of people liking the video already and already subscribing to the channel. But a great day's racing. I hope you enjoyed watching half as much, shall we say, as actually pedaling yourself.
I thought I'd be less stressed, but definitely had the heart racing the whole way through. So good to be on the other side of it. But boy, do I look forward to next season when I can be on track with these guys again.